Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. And a returning guest here on the podcast, and I'm pleased to have back on Tanner Leo, who is going to be a senior at Crosby High School. And he plays football for people who may have forgotten. He's also a great track player, also played basketball. Saw him on the basketball court during the winter. It was a pleasure to be able to see him. Tanner, thanks so much for being able to come back on, man.
Thanks for having me.
I think it was great to be able to see you play basketball a little bit at the JV level. Didn't see you on the varsity level, but just to have you back playing sports again, man. I know you and I talked during the whole situation with football and such, and how you were kind of missing that competitiveness and just being back out there. So playing basketball must have at least helped you a little bit, right?
Yeah, so that was the first time I really got to go back and do anything after COVID. Unfortunately, I played 3 games. I got COVID and I was done for the year. So, but just those 3 games and just being in a practice environment, honestly, having some structure, that was the main thing. Having something to do every day. I was all right, I got basketball. I had something to do. It wasn't, wake up, do a Zoom call all day with school, and then it's all right, what do I do now? I had something to do. So I had basketball every day, 2 games a week, something like that. And it was structure. So it was nice to be back at that and then have some competitiveness as well, competing with guys like Jason and stuff. So it was just great to be around, especially Jelly too. Jelly's a great coach. Even if you're not a big basketball player, he's just a great person. And he makes you want to get better at just life. And he's such a good guy. Him and Davino as well. So it's a great staff, and then it's a great team as well. So that was amazing to be back with something like that, some structure.
Would you say that kind of, even though we were only there for a short amount of time, and hopefully you're 100% healed from COVID, or you didn't at least have any sort of heavy symptoms, do you think that just being able to, even though it was only for a couple games, that, like you said, with the structure and just kind of, because it's hard to go from basically not doing a lot to then jumping right into, like you and I were just talking prior to coming on, weightlifting and that structure. If you jump right back into that, the body kind of, no matter how old or young you are, it takes a while to adjust.
Yeah. So I had been, working out for football even when the COVID stuff was going on. So I'm always in shape year round. So I was in shape, but the big thing was it was kind of being on a schedule. It was it was getting used to the habit of yeah, I had structure, but getting back into it was the big thing. Coming home late, getting the homework done and everything that was you had to pick that back up again. It wasn't you didn't have any time to be lazy or sit around or anything. I wasn't really playing video games or anything anymore. I was always doing something again. So that was the hard part. But physically, I was prepared. I was in shape and stuff. Except I wasn't prepared for how hot that gym gets. But you had to deal with
It gets hot in there, man.
it.
I mean, I'm in there with a dress shirt and a tie, and after the game, I'm like, please take this off me. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Especially with the mask. Yeah, I give you guys so much credit, man, to play with masks on, with how hot gyms can get. I don't know how you did it.
Terrible. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is PTSD. It was awful. But we got through it. It's over now for the most part.
Exactly. Now, hopefully, masks, respectively, can kind of be off. We're starting to see the restrictions lifted, protocols still in place depending on certain situations. But, as far as the football side, because that's obviously, I know you love football. You just got done with a camp today, and we'll talk about that later on. Now, with the situation with basketball, as far as because of it was a shortened season, did kind of football mode kind of turn on somewhat quickly?
Mine was always on. So it was always there. There was actually days where after basketball practice, or maybe I would leave 20 minutes early, I was going to training, whether it was with Coach Craig, with the deaf coach, or I was doing something. Going up to the field with the players still. It was always in. But once I got COVID and I found out I was done for the year, I went back and practiced a little, but there wasn't any games left because that was NBL tournament and everything, so I wasn't in that. Once basketball was done, it was everything kicked back in. I was at the field daily, and then track season rolled around, and then after track practice I was there. So it was just that's how I always am. It doesn't leave me, whether it's 2 degrees 90, whenever it is, it's there. So but yeah, it definitely it came back a lot more, especially when we finally got back into it, lifting and everything, being around the team, being around a coach and everything. That's when it really hit. That's when, the dopamine came back. And so it wasn't, you saw the light at the end of the tunnel. So,
Kind of
yeah.
talk me into, as far as I know, with now with the weather being better and late spring and such, and having the opportunity, and you and I, like I mentioned, we talked for a while, and it was great to be able to kind of see what Crosby and hear more so kind of what Crosby's been up to, and to hear about how much the players and yourself have been training and working. I mean, you said that you guys were weightlifting before Holy Cross. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that was massive for us because when you have the reputation like us, our big thing right now is we talk about it all the time when we're in the weight room. Let people think we're Crosby, let people think that we're that 1-9 team or that 0-10 team. They can think that all they want. They can underestimate us. And then when the season rolls around, that's when we'll handle business. But getting started early was huge. It's being prepared, I think, was something that we didn't have last time we played. I think that first game we thought we were prepared for Holy Cross, and we went in there and we weren't. I think that's something completely different now. I think we're much more prepared. I think we could go in tomorrow and play a game and be ready. So it was big. And then we find out Holy Cross was starting 2 weeks later, and we knew we were ahead. So well, hopefully we keep that up and we keep working even harder than them, and we'll see what happens.
Now, the last time I saw Crosby was when you played against Naugatuck, and it was at Crosby in the game. I mean, no offense, it was a one-sided affair. It was bad. But the reason why I bring that up is 2 years is a long time. That was in 2019. Now we're in 2021. And I told you how to go from it's one thing to be because in football, yeah, you can have the athletic ability, but if you don't have the coordination and that football talent, it's completely different. I mean, you think about athletes at the college and pro level, at the NFL level, who are so good athletically, but they have bricks for hands, or they can't, they don't know technique, and they flame out. It shows. But it just sounds like from what you were telling me earlier is that Crosby went from athletes to now understanding their football talent and now putting it together.
Yeah, so there's no doubt. Like, we're an inner city school, we're gonna have athletes. But the big thing is putting it together, like being able to work together, being able to comprehend everything. Like right now, our playbook's opening up. We can do much more. We understand much more. We're all on the same page. Like, we could go out, like we were, when the COVID year was going on, we were doing 7-on-7s, like with other schools without coaches. We were just like, I'd hit up a friend that I knew from another school and we play against each other. Like we could go and run a play ourselves and run a playbook and be fine without a coaching staff. And that's a big thing. Being able to hold each other accountable and know what we're capable of was huge. So, it's a big difference. 2 years ago, we were sophomores and freshmen playing varsity. None of us really belonged there. That's not the kids you want starting at the varsity level. And now we will. But now we have that experience and we have it over a lot of teams. So hopefully that helps us, at least in the beginning of the year, before teams get back into it. They might have to shake that rust off. I don't think we'll have to do it that much. I think we'll know what's going on and be adapted to the speed of the game. So I think that's a big thing. Everything's slowing down and, getting easier for everyone.
And as you were going through the training, and it sounds like it's been going very, very well. Uh, we know about Crosby's past. We know about the lack of wins, and it's been hard. It's been a struggle. But we saw Wilby in 2019 won like 3 or 4 games in a row where they started out very, very well. I know they didn't finish strong at the end of the season, but it can be done. And we saw Career Academy during that time. They won 7 games. I think that's the third most in the Brass's history as far as, the public schools, not the Catholic schools like the Sacred Hearts and the Holy Crosses and such. But the reason why I bring that up is, has there been any talk amongst the players of, oh, we're doing all this, but then once we get on the field, it's gonna be the same old Crosby? Because it doesn't sound like it's that coming from you.
No, we're ready to play anybody. Like, our eyes are like, obviously our goal is to win city, win the NBL, and then do what we can after that. But our eyes are like, we can compete with anybody in the state. That's how we want to feel, and that's how we should feel. Right now, we're 1-9 team. Did that change? No. Will it? Absolutely. I think when we play another team and we start off this year, you're going to see a big difference mentally, physically, like on another level with IQ as players, but our mental toughness is going to be huge. Because I think my sophomore year, we were losing to teams like Noggy. We weren't getting down on ourselves, like that was the big difference from my freshman year. And I think now we're not the same old Crosby, and we know that. We know what we have in store for us. This doesn't come around Crosby a lot. You don't get a class like this, like 2 classes back to back that have so many kids that have such great potential. That doesn't happen a lot. So we know what we're capable of and how big it can be for Crosby. It doesn't happen a lot. We don't want to be that average 5-5 team. That happens occasionally. We want to be better than that, and hopefully we will be.
Now, the 7-on-7 is something that I think is kind of what's starting off as far as kind of getting people back into Connecticut high school football. I mean, I've seen it all over the last couple of weeks from Game Time and other people talking about it. I know you've been, a part of it, and you were telling me how you guys, I think, are third and ranked higher than, or have, better than Southington, Cheshire, and so on. That's got to give you guys even more confidence that if you can do that. I understand 7-on-7 is a lot different than putting pads on and basically real big boy football, but it kind of gives you a glimpse of what could be potentially a very, very good team if a couple things go your way.
Yeah, so that's what I mean by competing with people in the state. We want to play in a 7-on-7 like that. We want to go against teams like that. And we're competing. And that's the big thing, is going there and seeing, okay, guys are getting open. Guys know their job. It's consistency. And it's happening. It's going to happen every single week that we go. That was week 1. We're only going to get better. So it was huge, because when we see teams behind us playing like Southington and Maloney, and then we get the scoreboard later that night and we see we're miles ahead of teams like that, and we're competing with Maloney and Platt, and Maloney was in the state championship in 2018 and in the playoffs in 2019. So that's huge, and that's the level we want to be on. And if we're competing with teams like that in 7-on-7, and then we can do it in pads, that's the goal. And I truly think we're capable of doing it.
Now, you talk about the fact of that the players know their assignments, and because of the lost year, I think the biggest concern, and there's a lot of concern as far as making sure players are academically eligible, but also physically, because not everybody has the work ethic like you and what sounds like a lot of your Crosby teammates. So for them to understand and know the playbook, do you accredit that to the fact that because they were so young back in 2019 and now they've had a couple years with Coach Scott and basically just being around everybody, like just take me into that?
Yeah, so when COVID was going on, we were in Zoom calls a lot, going through the playbook, whiteboard with coach, rewatching film, because we still had our schedule, and we knew that there was a chance that the schedule was going to be the same this year as it was. So we were watching scout film, we were watching our film on Woodland, watching our film on Holy Cross, stuff like that, and we were breaking everything down. So then when we did get back out on the field, we didn't have to start fresh. We already knew what we had to do. Now it was just physically doing it. And that was only going to make us better, because now we had the mental aspect. Now we're just going out there and running the route and getting the play down and actually practicing your assignment. So when we were on the board and everybody was able to learn their assignment, then that's why, like, when we went to Sheehan, we didn't even have our starting defense. We had a couple backups in, and we were still doing great. It wasn't like a backup that was struggling. They knew what they were doing. Somebody that could seriously compete for a spot. And that's the big thing. It's not just some starters and no depth. We have depth that can compete with that starter. And that's great. So yeah, it was on the board. We knew what our assignment was. And then we just, once COVID ended or whatever, wherever we're at, eventually physically we got to do it. And, it was just full speed ahead. So that's great. And I think we're going to be fine.
Being ahead of the game, I mean, it sounds like this entire conversation, it seems to me that Crosby's been ahead from the weightlifting to during the pandemic, because as we've seen from the athletic side, from the athletes and in general, you can go 2 ways. You can take advantage of the extra time, or you can get lazy, lackadaisical, and just hope that, oh, you know what, we'll just get back to it and it'll be bing, bang, boom, here we go. It's not like that, especially in sports. And it sounds like to me, man, that Crosby's been ahead of the game, and you could be the benefits, you, Coach Scott, and the rest of the team could be the beneficiaries of that later on, because you put in the hard work when when nobody was even paying attention to what you guys were doing. You guys were doing the dirty work behind the scenes.
Yeah, so the big thing we talk about in our group chat almost daily is we have all this potential, but do we want to just not work? And then, yeah, that potential could carry us to 5-5 or 4-6, maybe just with that alone. But let's go put in the work and, let's take that potential and put it to the highest level we can. And if that highest level is 7-3, so be it. If that highest level gets us into the playoffs, great, we'll roll. So that was our biggest thing. The day the weight room opened, it was everybody get there and let's get rolling. So that's what happened. There's days where the squat racks are full and I can't even get to a weight. I have to wait a turn and stuff because we have so many kids in there. And that's the goal. And that's what we want. We want every kid working, whether it's a freshman, a sophomore, anybody. We want to get rolling because everybody's going to have a role. And that was our biggest thing is there's nothing worse than wasted potential. And that's what we make it a huge thing in our group chat every single day. I can't even tell you how much we say it. And we don't want wasted potential at all. There's nothing worse in life than a wasted opportunity because you're not going to get it back.
What are the numbers at Crosby? Wait, what was that?
I said COVID taught us that. We're not. You can't take football for granted anymore. We got one more year, at least for me, and it's just you can't. You lost 10 games. You can't let it go past you again. So we don't want to waste that opportunity ever again.
And that goes right into my question about the numbers. I mean, how I mean, I understand again the fact with the Crosby's history and such hasn't been great, but for you to have to wait for a squat rack, the numbers have to be in what, the 40s or 50s, no?
So right now, we're not even in August yet, and that's the big thing. Like it's summer, kids are gonna work, so we're probably consistently on a daily basis weight room 30 to 40 around there. I would say mid 30s, and then 7-on-7 when we go skills, that's probably like in the 20s because that's really just varsity guys that we know are gonna compete for a varsity spot. But yeah, weight room, it's only gonna get bigger. Like there's we talk about it in the group chat, and each kid that's not going, we reach out, see why he's not there. And then it's, hey, I got to work. Okay, that's fine. You get here when you can. And that's what's going to happen. When August rolls around, I can see it getting into the 60s probably. Plus, we got some transfers and stuff too. Like, it's Sacred Heart closing. We got like 2 from Noggy, I'm pretty sure. So we're going to have a lot of stuff rolling for us. But yeah, like the last day we were in the weight room, which was Thursday, we had, I would say mid 40s.
Wow. I mean, hey, if you're drawing kids from Naugatuck,
yeah.
I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, big line came in there, 45-pound plate bench like almost 30 times with these. So,
what?
Yeah, it was something we did. After we lift every day, we for some reason, I don't know, it just turned into a routine where we all just bench a plate for reps. And we had a kid on our team that Coach Scott's son, one of them, was benching like 26, 27 every day. And this was after a workout. And then this kid just came in like first day, found it out like 30, still could have kept going. He put it back once he hit 30. And we're like, all right.
What's this young man's name?
Honestly, I don't even know yet. That was the first day I met him. He just came in there. We were like, okay.
Come on, Tanner. Come on.
I didn't even know him. Nothing just kind of rolled up. I was like, all right, I guess.
You know what? Just be grateful, and you better hope he's your left tackle.
I got a left tackle already.
Okay, so you better hope he's your right tackle.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're athletic. You like to run a little bit. You got a little Johnny Manziel like to run and go. So if you're rolling out to your opposite hand, he needs to be kind of like how your left tackle is blind side. Your right tackle is you're gonna have to be the blind side a couple times.
A little bit, yeah. I'm sure coming from Nagy, I'm sure it'll be fine.
So speaking of the offensive line, because obviously that's a big importance for you. And I know you mentioned how, what was it, during the COVID season, you lost, 4 offensive linemen?
2 guards, 2 tackles.
Okay, so just kind of previewing that a little bit, what's it like as far as because the skill positions, I mean, we could talk about that, but I think we hit on that enough as far as the 7-on-7 and with how much talent there is. But the big uglies, the big hogs, the offensive linemen, you need those. So kind of take me into that.
So actually, they're one of the most consistent groups right now. So, the receivers, like we'll get, our starters there every day, but like maybe one day, like one has to work. Every day there's, I would say 15 linemen, like any grade at conditioning and stuff. So 2 of our linemen, one of them was going to be the varsity center that COVID year. He had already had varsity time that year. when we had injuries and stuff like that. So he was ready. And then we got another one who had a little bit of varsity time. He's got the body for it. He's ready. And then I don't know if you know Clyde from basketball, big, tall, white kid. He was just nasty on the boards. He's going to be our left tackle, and he's huge. He's like, he looks like one of those Southington, like Darien kind of linemen. So that's 3 right there that we're ready for. And then we got like I said, there's like 10 to 15 linemen at practice. So there's 2 more spots. Who wants them? That's down to them. But yeah, no, we're going to be set. And then we'll have defensive linemen rotating too. So there's kids that aren't even going to really compete for the offensive line spot. They're just ready for D line. And that way it gives the guys a break. We don't got offensive linemen playing D line. And then, big sexies, they get tired. You can't, you got to give them a break. So that's going to be a big thing, is having 2 rotations. And then, hey, if we need to sub a lineman in for a play or something, they'll know their job, and that we can do that. So we're going to be set in the trenches.
How important is it to have not just depth, but have that competition? Because of it's so important, because if you just have the varsity and then they're not competing, because it seems like to me that even once the season's underway, or even preseason, and once practice started about August, I think, right? That's when practices start.
Yeah. August 13th, around there. Yeah.
I'm sure you have that circled about 8,000 times.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's obviously having varsity players is huge, but the varsity players do not get better if they're not facing not even so much equal competition, but competitive competition, guys that will test them each and every practice. It sounds like to me that even if you have 5 guys on the line, for example, those 5 young men have to make sure they're on their game, because they could lose their spot from week 1 to week 2, week 3, because you've got 10 other linemen there like, I want that spot. Give me that spot.
Yeah. So you're only as strong as your weakest link. So that was the big thing, being able to compete with each other. Like you can go out there in a game setting and compete against another team all you want, but you spend the most time with kids in your team. So 5 days a week, 4 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever it is, you're going to be competing against your own guys. And that goes everywhere. Weight room, you want to out rep each other. You want to outlift each other. You go to the field, you want to be first in the conditioning. You're like, it's everywhere. It's nobody's missing reps. And the big thing we talk about is don't cheat yourself. What do? You cheat yourself, and then you're cheating your team. You're not hurting anybody else but each other. So there's no cheating each other. If you don't come to practice, the thing we tell them in the group chat, you can't make it today. Okay. There's another guy. That's on you. You want to be average, that's on you. There's another kid waiting. And that's how it is. So there's a guy to fill every single spot. And I believe in every single guy. So as well as coach and each other, we all believe in each other, whether you're the first, second, or third string. We've got depth everywhere. So that's the big thing for us right now, is depth, potential, and just holding each other accountable.
How has your growth been as far as the quarterback position? Because I know, knowing you and how much, practice and how much time that you put in, both in the weight room, working with the deaf quarterback coach who does a very good job as far as with quarterbacks all the way from the time they're young, from the high school level all the way through. I know that there's a lot that you've been trying to work on, and just kind of take me into what's been some of the things that you've been really emphasizing as far as with your game.
Yeah. So, well, right now the big thing is putting on some size, because this is really my first year, like a full year in the weight room, like a full off season. Because the COVID year, and then the year before that we're changing coaches, so we didn't really get a full off season in the weight room. So right now I'm just trying to put on some size, but mechanically my arm strength is way better. We talk about it every day at practice. It's like coach always says the field looks smaller, and I was like, well, that's because I could make every throw inside the 50 now. So sideline to sideline, it's that was a big thing. My arm strength is a lot bigger. Mechanically, I'm just a lot smoother and more fluid. And you can tell it's the ball's out quicker, it's out harder, my feet move faster, and the game slowed down. That's like you go into 7-on-7, and I've never been in a 7-on-7 and looked at it and was just, it felt that slow. Like I knew where I was going pre-snap, and I knew what I was doing. It wasn't hard. And then I think that's going to translate. So that's the big thing. And then just consistency. Right now, that's the most important thing to me right now is consistency. I got the potential, I feel like. So as long as I'm consistent with it, that's what's going to carry me to the next level, hopefully. So size and consistency is the big thing for me right now.
The less things that you have to worry about at the quarterback position, it kind of allows you to not just utilize your strengths, man, but it also too at the same time allows you to, uh, to be able to figure out, okay, if I can do this, maybe I can try to extend it a little bit more. Like if you're good at throwing, because like which would you say you struggle more with, throwing outside the numbers or inside the numbers?
Honestly, probably inside. I feel like any deep ball or tight window throw, I feel like those are the easier ones for some reason. More pressure. I like it. It makes it easier for me. But yeah, inside the numbers actually probably
See,
a little bit.
See, I think that's good because, again, like you said, a lot of times you don't see a lot of quarterbacks, at least that I've seen in the NVL, that can throw. I see a lot of quarterbacks who can throw inside the numbers. Outside is the struggle. So if you already have that strength, then it allows you to focus more on that within practice. And if you can master that, that adds another tool in your toolbox. And now defensive coordinators in the NVL have to basically be like, all right, what do I do? He can throw outside, he can throw inside. If I bring the house, then he'll easily dump it off. If I decide to go back, then you're starting to test those weapons of Crosby where you're like, all right, I'm just going to throw it up to you, big guy, and you can go up and get it.
Right. I think the big thing for me this year is I truly feel like there's nobody in the NBL that should compete with me. Like I want to be in the newspaper. I want to be in the All NBL, and I want to get even farther than that. But um, that's the thing is being able to do everything on the field. When we go up against a team, no matter who it is, like what are you going to do? We have an answer for it. You want to rush? Okay, we'll throw the ball behind you. You want to sit back because you feel like I'm the strength? We'll run the ball down your throat. Like whatever they want to do, we'll pick your poison. It's whatever you want to do. We're prepared for it. So the big thing in the past is teams always, especially like the Holy Crosses and the Watertowns and stuff, bigger, stronger, they'll rush. They'll just try to outmatch you and just rush you and send 7 down the pipe and try to get you before the ball's out. And now I feel like pre-snap I can see it, and now I feel like even with a guy in my face, I can make almost every throw. So I think that's the big thing is whatever you want to do, we'll have an answer for it and we'll compete. And I think that's where you're going to see a huge difference. Is you're not going to see people, crack under the pressure at all.
Are you comfortable enough now to be able to, like you mentioned, as far as being able to drop, like you said, if they're bringing 7, you're going to maybe pre-snap be able to see that, and that kind of goes into the growth of a quarterback as you get older and you see more. I mean, Peyton Manning, I mean, famously enough, Omaha, 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 changing the play because he saw something. Tom Brady, even before he goes into next to his center, he's seeing everything and he's starting to dissect it through his brain. Do you feel like that you're able to do that at a consistent basis?
Yeah, I think that was always my biggest strength. I think that's why I was starting as a freshman and stuff. I couldn't make the throws back then. That was something that time would let that come, but my brain's always been there. Like I was talking to a kid about it at camp today. The thing I always think about when I'm playing 7-on-7s for some reason is I see the safeties, I see the defense, and I think to the Madden. Like I think Madden, I see the blue zone, the purple zone, and your mind starts picking it apart. So I've always been a film junkie, and I think that's just how I am. I think my brain's my biggest strength more than anything. And yeah, so I think pre-snap, I think that's the most important thing is do you know where you're going with the ball before you snap it? And
Mm.
if it's not here, do you have a backup plan? Do you know where you're going to go? Are you going to check down to the flat or are you going to the backside? Like, do you know what you're doing? And I think that's something that's huge. The game slowed down. I think I know what I'm doing now. And I think that's a big, big difference.
Tanner, I really do appreciate you coming on. I could talk to you forever, but I'm just about running out of time. So thanks so much for being able to come on, and hopefully I can get you back on before the season starts.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. From RST stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.